Welcome to Living and Investing with me, Jonathan Brookman. Our guest today is Richard Douglas from the Greenway Solar. Welcome, Richard.
Thanks, Jonathan.
You're going to give us a few tips on what a solar installation is and why we still need them.
Yeah, I absolutely think we need solar, and now probably more than before.
So question number one was, the government tells us no more need. They've sorted out the issues of the past with Escom. Is that really so?
We have enough electricity at the moment, but Escom aren't containing their costs. So electricity is getting very, very expensive. We're seeing multiples of inflation when it comes to tariff increases. So now the value proposition for solar is it's saving you money. Energy from a solar panel is a quarter of what you'd be paying for it, buying it from the utility.
So following on from that, beyond the load shedding benefit, the cost is the single biggest driver.
Yeah, and we are seeing a lot of outages that are not load shedding related, days at a time, so that's a challenge. What's different now to load shedding is that we require bigger batteries so that we can get what we call energy arbitrage. So using the power you've generated from solar in the daytime stored on a battery and used in the evening peaks and the morning peaks. So the residential consumption curve is almost inverse to the solar curve. So you're making power in the middle of the day, like
when
now,
you don't need it,
when we're going to have a sandwich for lunch, and then you need it when you're going to cook supper, roast chicken and roast potatoes, and you need it for your evening peak, not so much through the middle of the night, and then again before the sun gets up in the morning, we have a huge load for breakfast. So we actually need bigger batteries because about anywhere between 1/2 and 2/3 of the power you need is outside of productive sunshine hours. So we still need hybrid systems because we're trying to save money when the sun's not shining as well. And up until recently, probably 2 years ago, we hadn't reached what we call battery parity. So getting energy out of a battery was quite expensive. Now that batteries have become much more cost effective, it's even cheaper to store a kilowatt hour of solar energy in a battery and use that overnight than it is to buy it from City Power, Escom, Ekurhuleni, whatever the case might be.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
The analogy about meal times or bath times also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So what we try to do is we try to have geyser timers and pool pumps and things running in the daytime. So a geyser I often call a thermal store of energy. So you're basically pushing your energy into hot water and storing it that way. You draw it down for evening showers and morning showers. And then when the sun's back up nice and brilliant at 10 a.m., start heating your geyser again. The geyser stays hot for 24 hours, provided you don't have very long showers. We try to concentrate what I call discretionary loads in the daytime to really benefit from solar.
And then Richard, I'm thinking your ability in this field has grown now that everybody is using solar. And the initial start with something small and grow, does that still work?
I try to get the design right at the beginning. Adding is tricky, it really is, and I think your customers need to know that. Solar panels, when we string, here we've got 6 panels in a string and 5 panels in a string. If anything had to happen to a panel and we needed to replace it, we need to replace it with a matching panel. So that gets tricky. Every few months we're seeing a bigger panel, a better panel, higher efficiency. So we try to get the design right at the beginning.
You can't just insert one new panel.
You can't. And then we start mixing and matching between strings. It makes my job very difficult, sometimes impossible. Batteries, similar story. You don't want to be adding old batteries to new batteries. Then you start getting voltage issues. A battery that's been working for 3 years has a different voltage range and energy capacity to a brand new battery. So you end up, when you're trying to charge an old cell on an old battery, you end up overcharging a good cell on your brand new battery, damaging the new battery. So getting the size right is important. We did a lot of small systems back 10 years ago when we started, and it was because everything was so expensive. Now, we've never seen pricing like this. It really is cost effective. Panels have come down dramatically, batteries are cheaper, inverters are far more versatile. So we can get you to the right size, and no one element I think is prohibitively expensive. So getting the right size is better, but if you're interested, there is a brand that's solving the problem of how you can do it incrementally.
The old way of just getting through blackouts and load shedding has changed now to an ongoing saving model. Yep. What is the payback on our system?
So typically with residential systems, a little bit longer because your power is used outside of sunshine hours. But we're seeing paybacks, depending on the size of the system, of between 7 and 8 years. In business, a lot better. We've seen paybacks even on hybrid systems of under 4 years, because they're using energy in the daytime. And so it's kind of a direct line, solar into loads. It's highly cost effective. And the battery, there is a relationship between battery size and inverter size. It's not that they are correlated. So we need a battery that's big enough to take the full inverter's demand. For instance, if a cloud came over or something, and it relies only on the battery in the middle of the day to power a machine, we've got to have the right size battery to do that. But we don't have to oversize the battery. Residential now, with battery costs coming down, we're oversizing batteries, or certainly putting in bigger batteries than we did before.
And has technology improved to such an extent that the spec has altered?
Yeah, technology has come a long way. I've been watching high voltage batteries for decades. They've only really been rolled out in South Africa in the last 2 years, and probably at scale in the last 12 months. And I really think we should all be going for high voltage batteries.
That's just 400 or 800 volts.
It ranges. I think some of our systems start at 200 volts, which is much better than the 50 volts that the rest of them are at. Yeah. And they range all the way up to 700-800 volts, as you say. Yeah.
Safety-wise, monitoring and maintenance, what is needed for a solar system, and do you recommend an ongoing maintenance contract?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to know what's going on with the system. When we install a new project, we always include a year's monitoring and maintenance, because we want to make sure it is delivering on its promise and it's operating as it's designed, and we need longitudinal data for that. Monitoring and maintenance is important, and it gets more important the older the system gets. So we give it to you for free when it's not really required, and then 3 years later people are waking up and realizing, my panels are filthy. Why am I not getting the yields I need? So panels need to be cleaned. We need to check that everything is in the right place. So we tie cables up underneath the mounting structures, we put them in conduit. UV is incredibly damaging. So 10 years down the line, if that conduit's damaged, we want it repaired. We want to make sure that everything is like it was when we installed it. So maintenance is important. We know that cleaning a panel that's been dirty for over 2 years is very, very hard. Now we start rubbing a panel. We can't use a detergent because it's got an anti-reflective coating, and the detergent damages the coating. So we need to use elbow grease to get the dirt off, and that can also damage the anti-reflective coating. So keeping your panels clean, making sure everything's in the right place is hugely important. And then the other one on hybrid systems, where we have lithium batteries, is we want to know what's going on with the lithium cells. If we start to get cell drift, so voltage drift on the cells, we start to get some cells that have high voltage and some cells that have got unusually low voltage, that gap can just keep widening, and eventually the battery will need to be reconditioned or replaced. So we can monitor down to a cell level what's happening. And so it's important to do that. We don't do that every day. We look at that from time to time. And if we get any alerts like a high voltage warning on a system, which I get from many clients, then we know to go dig deeper. But if we're hands off for a year or two and a system presents with a problem, we don't have data to go and look at to track what the baseline was to begin with. Yeah. We also want to be available to our customers. If they forget how to put the system into bypass because something's gone faulty, we need to remind people. We have seen that knowledge leaks. We offer telephonic support, alert monitoring, and 1-year maintenance as a bundled annual package. You can pay for it on a debit order, you can pay for it annually. We really encourage people to do that after that first year, that they get included in the project price. But certainly when a system's 3 years old and older, have someone looking at it, and someone who knows what they're looking at. I think that's a challenge, is that just the nuances we've learned about solar, having done it for 10 years in South Africa, is quite different to what you'll read in your manual or see on a YouTube clip.
And no one reads the manual?
No one reads the manual, yeah. We do, but certainly not the client.
In the news at the moment, the reaction to City of Joburg, in particular, doing away with prepaid for solar users. Mm-hmm. Help me here, help us understand, what is that about?
So we refer to that as registration of small-scale embedded generators. What the network operator is trying to establish is how many generators are actually embedded in my network. And to be fair to them, they do need to know that. So I'm a great believer that we should register systems.
This is for the day when we can sell our electricity back to...
Just not even. So you may not be exporting to the grid, but you're taking load away from the grid. And you're taking it away on the sunniest days. So the grid operator needs to know if tomorrow's going to be bright sunshine, all my clients with solar are going to have zero load. They're going to be using their own resources to power their loads. So they're going to have low demand. If tomorrow's going to be pouring with rain the whole day, they're going to need a whole lot more capacity to service the demand. The utilities do need to know what's embedded in their network. It's been required in the developed countries since solar started. South Africa had been a bit different. Our adoption of solar was driven by need, right? Load shedding, no power, install systems, and there was no policy to back it up. Now that all the utilities are realizing there's so much embedded generation, they're bringing policy sort of after the event. It is still necessary, but it needs to be fair. So that's why civil society organizations are fighting it. I think everyone's argument needs to be tempered a little bit, and we need some reasonableness to prevail. And what we've been waiting for is a process that's accessible and achievable. Up until recently, it was so difficult and expensive to get these systems registered.
And that data isn't measurable on a pay-as-you-go system.
They can see that there's no load going to certain meters, but they can't track it. And also, certainly we're in the city power jurisdiction right now. So on city power, it's what we call a two-quadrant meter. It doesn't measure whether energy is being exported from the property or imported to the property. So we need a four-quadrant meter that measures direction of energy flow. Do you require a different meter? Also, what they're trying to achieve is they want to say, well, a kilowatt hour at noon is far less valuable than a kilowatt hour at 6 p.m. So I think the most valuable kilowatt hour is at 1800 hours, right? Because that's when everybody's using power for something. You've got to incentivize people to use power in the peaks sparingly and store it in their batteries when there's a surplus. And so having a time of use tariff is something that smart grids need.
We don't yet have a time of use tariff.
On certain tariff structures, we most certainly do. So a lot of commercial and industrial tariffs have time of use. Escom have time of use tariffs to their own direct customers. City Power, I think, has some time of use tariffs, but only at the moment for industrial customers. So we need that. We need to say, guys, if you want to charge your electric vehicle, do it at noon. And please, or at midnight. So you've got another off-peak, which is the middle of the night, right? So the best way to do that is to impact someone's wallet. Yeah. So if I'm going to get cheap electricity into my car, I must start charging it at 10 p.m. and stop charging it sometime before 4 a.m.
So it's a communication issue.
Yeah, and I think I'm a supporter of time of use tariffs, but they can't, where it's unreasonable is they want to charge high fixed costs and high time of use tariffs. And then you're penalizing people, which is going to drive what we refer to as grid defection, which is kind of counter to why we have grids in the first place. The diversity on a network really helps, right? Because you don't boil your kettle at the exact same minute I do. So that diversity allows us to create this much power and it gets spread around all users. So grids have a place, it just needs to be managed properly. And time of use tariffs drive that.
Richard, registering your system, does it entail and what's the cost?
There's definitely a lot of effort involved. We've got to submit a lot of documentation to the utility. We often have to meet the utility on site for them to sign off on that. So that's truck rolls and people and hours. So there's definitely a cost involved. There may be a cost of replacing your meter. At the moment, Escom are waiving that cost. So if you're an Escom customer, get your new meter before the 31st of March. The costs were unreasonable. I think there's been a meeting of the minds. They're lowering some of the competent person requirements. You don't need a PRN to sign. Yeah, you can now get an installation electrician to sign off on a system. There's a cost of the application itself, and dealing with the municipality is often quite tricky, so we like to use a consultant who's expert in that to actually facilitate the process. Definitely some costs involved. I think over time the benefit of solar is going to offset that cost, but it's a hard pill to swallow, having to spend a few thousand rand to get your system registered. I'm pleased that civil society are pushing back, as I say, hoping for some common sense that we make it accessible and affordable and get the right thing happening on our grid.
I've had my EV for 2 years now, and I've just had a recall notice about an issue with batteries, and EV drivers at the moment are super alert.
Yeah.
Safety with solar systems, you had any issues? What should you be aware of?
Yeah, I do think that safety is really important. So we have had things getting hot. Things getting hot will eventually catch fire. So where we're concerned, we put in fire retardant distribution boards, and in certain instances we put in fire detection systems. Not always, because a well-installed system shouldn't need that, but I do think that from the design stage right through installation, you need to have safety front of mind. And cheap is typically not safe. When I think of what we spend on compliance, indicator lights to tell you which sources of energy are actually on at any given time, monitoring these battery voltages like I mentioned, all of that makes your system safer. If you have a wildly different cell voltage between cell 1 and cell 16, you're going to overcharge cell 16, and that cell is then at risk of catching a light or whatever the case might be. So,
and then add to that city power and their on-off issues.
Yeah. So I do think one should have safety front of mind and should be talking to people who know what they're looking at. As I mentioned before, the manuals don't tell you everything there is to know about systems. So what we've seen is we're moving to, on the bigger batteries, liquid-cooled batteries. Really good battery management systems help with safety, making sure that absolutely every termination is done properly and marked as such, supervised by competent people. It's every part of an installation that has a safety element to it.
The Greenway Solar, you've been doing this job some time. Tell me about business, how you got into it, and what makes you the go-to.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah, I decided probably 12 years ago that I really wanted to get into something I believed in, and with the amazing solar resource we have in South Africa and the Highveld in particular, I wanted it to be solar PV. So I started working on that idea 12 years ago. 10 years ago, we started a business in the UK. The Brits learned from the rest of Europe, so there was a lot to learn. We brought a lot of ideas, concepts, processes from the UK. So I started the Greenway Solar in Milton Keynes 11 years ago, and we started in South Africa 10 years ago. We've got over 400 residential installations. Our business model has moved, so now we do a lot more commercial and industrial projects, but we know that our residential book's important to us. We want to look after them, again with the monitoring and maintenance. So we run 2 divisions, residential and CNI, we call it, commercial and industrial.
And tidying up after somebody else's left the job.
That's a real challenge for us. When I mentioned that every termination needs to be done properly, if you look at an array of solar panels, I can't really see from looking at that what the cabling looks like behind there. I don't know if they were careful when they ran the cable and didn't chafe cables, pulling it over sharp edges or whatever the case might be. So taking on other people's systems is a huge risk for us. But I'm in the problem-solving business. So 3 years ago, I refused to do it. And about 2 years ago, well, up until 3 years ago, I would refuse to do it. But now I know there's a real need out there. People have had systems installed, they can't find the original installer, or the original installer is not answering their questions adequately. And they're saying, please, we want to make sure that what we've got on our family home is safe. And so we are answering that call, but it does have risk to us. Contact us if that's your situation, and we can talk. There's a charge, we have to do an audit of your system. We're very much a new projects business as well as an O&M
ongoing
business.
Maintenance.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is making AC power right now. The unit over here is a charge controller for the solar. This is a DC coupled system. So if we do have a prolonged outage and we run out of battery, as soon as the sun's up and shining on our panels, this system can charge the batteries independently of any AC source. There are lots of different ecosystems out there. Victron's quite a tried and tested one, been around a long time, robust as anything. That's what we've got installed here. All of this is protection. Being able to isolate your solar panels, which are energized in the daytime, so that you can work on components. So this is our DC combiner box, fuses, lightning protection, isolator switches. On our batteries, we have switches on the batteries that come into a fuse, so if we need to isolate all batteries at once, we haven't accidentally left a battery on. So lots and lots of protection. It's part of the compliance, it's part of good practice. It doesn't always happen. Again, talks to the safety argument. Moving across here, this is quite interesting because I don't think people fully realize it, but these systems communicate with the OEM's portals. So Victron's portal is called VRM. This allows us to work on this unit remotely. There's a communications element on the newer inverters. A lot of the inverters coming from the east, it's all in one box. So don't be surprised if you've only got one box on the wall and I've got 4. The communications, you'll see often a communications dongle on the bottom of an inverter. And then over here, AC compliance, proper labeling so that people know what's going on in here. Come into this box, indicator lights showing that I've got power from the grid at the moment and my inverter is putting out AC power. Again, surge protection, that's an insurance requirement. This balance of system is quite costly. Every one of these switches has to be terminated, wired carefully and neatly. And so that's why I'm saying cheap is often not safe. Then you've got your battery bank. There's a correlation between battery bank, inverter size, and solar panels. All 3 of those elements are arrived at differently, but they are related to one another. It's not a one-to-one relationship. So if you've got an 8 kilowatt inverter, it doesn't mean you can only have 8 kilowatt hours of battery. Battery is like a fuel tank. You can have a long-range tank if you like. I would recommend that. Get you through the winter nights. If you really want to be as independent from the grid as possible, get you a battery that can take the shortest winter's day of generation and get you through the heaviest load winter's night. It'll cost you a bit of money. All of the elements are arrived at independently when we do designs, and so designing is important. You can't just have a certain number of panels. You can't say I need 11 kilowatt hours of battery. You may find an 11 kilowatt hour battery, but typically we're working in 5 kilowatt hour increments. So I think just having done this for a very long time, it's easy for us to reasonableness check a system and how it's been sized. I don't think it's always that easy to the untrained eye. But that's the long and the short of it. Solar panels make the energy. Batteries allow you to store it in the middle of the day and use it when the sun's not shining. And the inverters make it useful for the house, for the power we need in our household. You do get single phase and 3-phase inverters. We've got a single phase feed here at this property, so this is a single phase inverter. And I'm pleased to tell you that there are some really nice products in the market. 3-phase used to be very inaccessible from a cost point of view. It's now, I think, quite affordable and very versatile.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for filling in on we all have a backup system, but we're not too sure what happens next. You've answered all those questions really well.
Thanks, Jonathan. It was really good to meet you, and people are welcome to give us a call, put up our number and website if you need to get hold of us.